Hello, today's video is going to be how I made this sun catcher. It's made with epoxy resin, alcohol inks, and I used my Cricut to do the lettering, and I'm going to also add in a note in the bottle that you see here. So I've got the bottle, the shells, lettering, alcohol ink, and epoxy. And let's get started. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so and give me a thumbs up. I'm going to start off with a thin layer of epoxy. And next I'm going to add my blue and my pink. The blue and pink will both be for the sky and the water. And I'm just going to thin that out or spread it out. And this is one of many layers that I will be doing with the epoxy. Once this dries, I'll be doing this again. Next I'll be adding in the gravel and adding in the seashells, and I'll be standing up the bottle with a wire. Hi and welcome back. Today I'm going to remove this from the mold and then work on decorating it with more alcohol ink. So the first thing I'm going to do here, oops, it's got a little stuck, is remove my wire which held up my jar. This is wire that I'm going to eventually use for jewelry making. Maybe one day I'll get myself a wire hanger instead, because I don't want to, let me see, oops, maybe I should have taken this out a day sooner. I didn't do it yesterday because I got busy, but let's see if I can get it out. It seems to be stuck in one little area. I don't remember heating it, but there it comes. Okay, now we got it. Come on. There we go. Oh yeah, that's right, I did heat it. Normally it doesn't do that. Let's see. Okay, so like I said, couldn't see the design until it's out, but now we can see the design. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to give this a light sanding, which will help the epoxy stick to it. The scratches will not show up because they will get filled in with epoxy. So I've got that done. Okay, I'm back. I do have my mask on, so it may be a little harder to hear, but I'm going to put in a little bit in here to make a blue. Maybe a little more. And a pink, which I don't need a lot of. And so I'm going to work on here. But I'm going to start with my black. In this here bottle, I do have this here Alumilite black because it's the most black that you can get. And I'm just going to start by adding in a little bit. Oops. Let's just take the lid off. Today I found there to be a lot of bubbles in my epoxy, so not happy about that. And I'm just going to make my trees. I'll leave enough room up here for the words, so I don't want to go too high with the trees, so I'll just make this line in here. And put another dab of the dye in here to thicken it up. too much. And I'm going to use this here black, which is Marabou. It's going to have a little bit different effect because it has different shades in it. I just want to take some of this down. You'll see it's got a lot more blues in it. Good enough. Okay, stick that there. Hopefully this is dry. I'm going to mix in a little bit of pink in this one that has the least. Not a lot of color. I don't want a lot of color. Don't forget, I can, this is day 2. I don't have to do it all in the same day. I can continue to add colors until I get the results I need. Man, I made a lot of this. This is a lot of blue. This I made the other day, which means it's my Pinata ink. Because it's the only one that I ever fill out like that. Mostly because it came in a 4 ounce. So mixing a lot is easier than trying to pour a little. So I'm going to flood this first. Hopefully that's all dry. The good thing is that the ink usually doesn't run. I'm going to need to take out the bubbles. There's a lot of bubbles in here today.
lots of bubbles. My new stirring stick may not be the best, because it certainly seems to get a lot of air in there. Oops. And put it in the water. And my pink. I think I need more pink.
Next I'm going to add in some blue with my paintbrush, and it's the Pinata blue. You'll notice that the trees never moved because the ink for the trees was dry before I started with the epoxy. You'll also note that I'm losing a little bit of epoxy to the left because I put on too much epoxy to start with. Next I'll be adding in some pink. And then I will be finishing up with my butane torch to take the air bubbles out.
And tune in tomorrow where I try and fix what I need on the back side and add in some more details on the front side. Take care.
Hi, and today I'm back with my piece that I started the other day. I did have a little bit of extra flow on this here side, so I did take my Dremel and I did grind it off a little bit here, and I had a drop or two over here, so I ground that off as well. Try and keep that in that spot today so that I can not get off camera, because I have a habit of doing that, and I apologize. I do have a funny story for you. If you'll remember, the other day I did use my favorite little tiny little paintbrush, and I had mentioned I had gotten some resin on it. So I put it, at the end of the day, I put it into a bag with a little bit of acetone, and when I came back today, my paintbrush has disappeared because the acetone ate that. So I have to switch up to this here paintbrush here, which is a little bit larger, but I'm going to make it work. So that's where I'm at today. So I'm just going to start off by putting on my mask, and I'll be right with you. The first thing I'm going to do is add in some black to enhance the trees, and I'm using my Alumilite black because it's the most pigmented jet black that I have, and I really like the effects that it gives. Now you don't have to go exactly over top the trees that you had before, because that will give it a little bit of depth. Next I'm doing the bottom trees in the water, and I'm using my Marabou inks for that. Next I'm adding in a sun with a little bit of yellow and orange around it, and then enhancing it with the pink. And now I'm going to work on the water, so I'm going to add in a little bit of blue, and then I'm going to enhance that with a little bit of white paint in my blue. Still working on the blue here. I do take a little bit of the blue off with a little bit of alcohol. You'll see that's what I'm doing right now. Trying to give it a little bit of like a wave effect. Now I'm going to do the white. So I'm just mixing a little bit of white into my blue so that it's not a white that I'm putting on, but rather a little bit of a blue, and I'm just kind of dabbing it on and then removing a lot of it so that I've got a little bit of white, but I don't want it to really look unnatural, so I'm dabbing it in and then taking it off. And now I'm enhancing it again by adding a little bit of blue underneath the wave, so that it looks like it's white on top and blue underneath. And next I'm going to add the lettering to my sun catcher, making sure that I've got it centered and equal on both sides. And finally I'm going to do a little bit of taping on here. So the first thing I'm going to do is add some clear of the epoxy and spread that around a little bit. Now I'm adding the torch to remove any of the bubbles. Adjusting the tape so that it's not going to push in on the epoxy. You'll have to stay tuned for the next section of this video because it's really quite funny. So I'm going to add in a little bit of pink into my water. I have added a couple of the pink drops to the epoxy, and I'm just dropping them on. Added a little more pink because it didn't seem to be giving it enough color, I believe. And now I'm adding in some blue and just going to stir that into the epoxy that's already on there. A little more blue. And final with the torch. So it's been about 2 hours since I've done this, and I'm hoping it's hard enough. I'm not sure that it is. It kind of still looks a little soft to me, but I'm going to give it a try anyway to see if I can get the tape off the sides and let it to slowly flow down rather than run off like it did last time. It should work. We'll see. I think it will be okay. Oops. Get this on the center. Nice thing with this jar is it just happened to come in handy to help me hold this here. Sometimes you get lucky, right? Okay. It is flowing down a little bit. Let's see if I can fix that. Oh, I got it on the back side again. Let's see. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little bit of alcohol, which should help me to get it off the back where I've made a little accident. And the option would have been to wait a little longer. Ooh, I think I'm making a bigger mess. For about the next 20 minutes, I'm going to try and remove the excess epoxy that you see dripping off the sides, and as I do it, it gets worse and worse. I try to remove with alcohol, I try scraping, I try tilting it. Finally, I gave up and I put it away for the evening, and about 2 hours after I had put it away for the evening, I came back and used a little bit of alcohol, and I was able to remove the excess and salvage my work for the evening. So welcome back. This is another day of working on this project. I did have a rough time on the last day with the overflow, but once it did set, I was able to come in and pick this up, of course, by the bottle. And I did clean the back with some rubbing alcohol to get the drips off so that I wouldn't have too big of a mess. I think part of the problem was that I should have either leaving the tape on until it cured, and then I may have had some tape stick to it, or I should have taped below the edge of the rim, because this was the second pouring on top of this, so it meant that it was already domed over the edge, and I think that's one of the mistakes I made. So today when I tape, I'm going to do the back. I'm going to put stuff on the back. So the first thing I need to do is take it and just give it a light sanding to help the resin stick. Next I clean my sun catcher with the alcohol and wipe it dry with a coffee filter. And then I'm going to enhance the colors with some more ink, working them as I feel I need. I use a little bit of airbrushing to help dry the ink. Now I'm adding tape to the edge of the bottom of the sun catcher so that once the epoxy drips it's going to not ruin the other side. I'm adding the epoxy, and once the epoxy has set fairly well but not cured, I will remove the tape. This is almost finished. I am going to try and video this by hand because so I can move it around. It would be finished other than I do have some sort of blemish on here, and it's very difficult to see. I don't even know if you can see it, but let me see. I don't think I can show it. But what I'm seeing in here is I had this upside down when I did this here side, and it was resting on a little cup, and I can actually see the mark from the cup in here. So I'm going to let this dry for several days to make sure that this side is perfect, and it does look perfect actually. And once that is done, I am going to then do one more time on this here side. I'm fairly happy with this. As you can see my ring light, which I apologize. There's just no way to block that out, and I apologize. But if we look at this close, this is sitting on a, what do you call, light pad to show the light right through, so you can see. I will take it up to a window here in a moment. But if you look at it, you can see the different layers in there. I don't know if it'll pick it up on the camera very well. You can sort of see that yellow. Let me see. If you watch in, this here area, you can see that the yellow and the pink do show up on different levels. It's really hard to see on this here video, but I don't know. There you can go like that. I can see it right there. But so it does give, and the trees, of course. The trees are on different levels too, so you can see them actually quite well on the piece, but on video not so much. So inside this here bottle, of course, I do have the cork that will go in the end, and a special note on the inside of this here bottle. And I apologize for that ring light. I don't know what it'll look like without the ring light. Let's see. Okay, so that's without the ring light. I hope that gives you a better view. So yes, a note will go in the bottle, the cork will go on the end, and I'm just going to finish it up with one more coat on this side due to the little bit of a mark I have on this side from it resting on the cup that I had it to dry on. So let's take this up to a window and check it out. So this is outside. My window's too dirty to even show that, but so I will be putting a drill hole above the welcome to in the center, and then I will add a suction cup to a string of sorts. You can hear my dogs in the background. And then this will be done. But thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed and hope you learned along with me, and I wish you all the best. Take care. Bye-bye.